Datemo living what a body, wanted only dangaba, who din in Dagamaye. Datemo, Iseni Wamabua, and never say Nibeguno, and it got to Wale. Datemo, Isuyao, Isinaku to Pastekun Namalanye. Datemo, Wafadaha, Wada. Abudha wakiyame ani adulu wafana ani gweto paibana lubakufunge ani gweto pola plata baile mono ani gweto paibana lubakufunge ae paibana
Welcome to the first weekend of the Garifuna International Indigenous Film Festival. And here is our special guest, Ashley Blanco.
Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be here. That was such a great, introduction video. I think that's the best so far I've seen. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. And the type of person I am is I love to share in a way that highlights the wonder that exists in each and every one of us. So if you and I are ever able to share space together, you can expect from me that I want to hear from you. And even though this is being shown in many different places and we can't interact with each other directly, we are connected in spirit. So if there's something that comes up for you while you're watching this broadcast, I'd like for you to write it down, okay? And revisit that, whether it be with the Most High, the ancestors, yourself, beloved elders, even your children. Today, we're going to be talking about the sufficiency of love and improving our interactions with ourselves and our children so that we can have a stronger village. Now, as Garifuna people, we have a strong legacy. And for the younger generation like myself, being 35 years old, some of us are not as connected to the rituals and the recipes as our elders have been, even some of our peers. I can say that for myself. But one thing that came to me, even last night as I was preparing, is that we are as close to our ancestors as the curve in our DNA. Wow, that is so exciting. I'm going to say that again. We are as close to our ancestors as the curve in our DNA. So I want you to, regardless of how close you feel, I want you to know that to be true, because the knowing is deeper than an emotional feeling. Okay, now emotions are important. God has given us a range of emotions so that we can experience them. And we integrate those emotions into our human experience, and it makes us human. But before we are in this human casing, we are spiritual beings. So I'm very open about my relationship with God. It guides everything that I do. And as spiritual beings, we want to make sure that we are feeding our spirits, cultivating our spirits in such a way that we are living according to our divine image and our divine purpose. We are in a time where everything is, being packaged and bought and sold. And the capitalism is so deep that we are seeing some people do strange things to be a part of it. And that's not anything new. But what I want to present to all of you is a way to return to who we are in this place, the system that we're a part of. Create a space for us to return, create a space for us to connect. And as a kids life coach, one of my big things is improving parent-child interactions. Now, I know with my parents, I love them so much, and we've been through a lot from the time that I was a little girl to now. We've gone through some things, but what makes us stronger is being able to overcome those adversities together. Many times we go through things as families and we turn on one another instead of turning towards one another. I'm going to pause there for a moment. We turn on one another instead of turning towards one another. And I've seen this happen over and over and over. So what I want to present to you is a structure that you can apply that will help you to improve your interactions with your children, with anyone in your family, and with yourself, because God wants you to be stable. Okay, you have faith so that you can have stability. Faith is not for you to be unstable, hold grudges, distance yourself from people when they don't do what you want them to do. Faith means many things to different people, but for me, it being the substance of what is unseen, what's hoped for, and what's unseen. Faith being, what sustains the breath. The faith and the trust, they interlock, right? To keep us alive. Faith perpetuates the vision when our sight is dim. Faith is very deep. Faith is very rich. So we have to stay in the place where we are cultivating our faith so that we can overcome our fears. And when we experience adversity, we can say, well, this is part of life. Adversity is inevitable. But our faith is always available to us, and our peace is always available to us. Now, what I would like for you to do, because like I said, I'm going to pretend like we are all in the room together. And what I would want you to do is I want you to just give yourself a nice stretch. Anyone who joins me on our Tuesday night spiritual energizers, we always give ourselves a nice stretch, wake ourselves up. So I'm pulling my legs back, reaching one arm up, giving myself a nice stretch to where I can feel those muscles. You see my arms, if you're a little closer, you can see my arms are shaking a little bit because I want to wake myself up a little bit. I'm just going to shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. Okay. And, I'm going to just warm my back up a little bit. So I'm going to move my shoulders, and you can join me right where you are, moving your shoulders. Make sure you're breathing, moving those hips, right? As we dance punta, we're moving those hips where the vitality is, right? Our vitality is within us. Our vitality is not outside of us. Our vitality is in us. So we want to stir that up, right? Stir that up. Okay. And then, give your ankles a nice little shake, and we'll go back to stretching later. I just want to get us ready so we can go a little deeper. Okay. And I do have some notes. So if you see me looking down, it's because I like to write things down, make sure I'm staying on track. So here's the thing. I talked about this structure, right? I'm old school. We will use the whiteboard if needed. But this presentation today, we want to create a structure for the rhythm and flow of trust, wisdom, peace, creativity, stability, purpose, and innovation. Wow! How many of you knew? Again, I'm pretending we're in the room together. How many of you knew that you could have a relationship where there's a rhythm and a flow? There's a structure for the rhythm and the flow of the relationship. Yes, yes, yes. I see you, even though I don't see you. I see you raising your hand. Yes. So some of you already know this is who we are as Afro-Indigenous people. We create structures. We abide by structures so that there's a rhythm and a flow. Even when we look at the earth, we can see that there are boundaries. The boundaries exist so that we can see what is what, right? I can see that the ocean is there and the land is here. The coast is here, right? The coast is here and the horizon is there, right? These boundaries exist. This is how the Most High created the universe, the earth. Boundaries exist so that we can distinguish between what and what, between who and who, right? Between whose is what and whose is whose, right? So we need those boundaries. And when we create a structure, the structure helps us to honor the boundaries that exist. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, I'm Ashley Blanco, Kids Life Coach, and we're talking about improving our interactions with our children so that we can have a rhythm and flow of relationship that helps us to overcome adversity. Now, some of you may be wondering, Ashley, do you have kids? No, I don't have kids. Spirit willing, one day soon. But I don't have kids. But I've worked with so many kids in the last 12 years. I have a good enough amount of information, okay? And a lot of experience. So we want to create this structure that honors the natural rhythm and flow for trust, wisdom, creativity, stability, peace, purpose, and innovation. Now, if you are in a relationship like that, that's something that you want to maintain. That's something that you are currently maintaining so that you can have that. Because relationships are resources. Say that again. Relationships are resources. We need people. I could not do this if I was not invited by Kayla. I need Kayla, right? And Kayla's like, well, actually, I need you to come present. And we say, okay. So we are honoring this interdependent relationship, right? And it's mutual. So we want to create a structure. And I'm so excited to share this structure with you. It's so simple that if you're reading, and I got this from Genesis chapter 1, right? If you're reading, you may miss it. It's so simple. So I'm excited to share it with you. Now, here's the thing. Relationships are resources, so we want to take care of what we have. One of the things that happens to us and it hurts us long term is when we don't see what we have. We realize too late what we have. I remember talking to different people and they regret so much what they did not take care of, what they did not realize, right? The time that they misused. Now, I exercise with a program called Beachbody, and one of the instructors, she says, discipline weighs an ounce. Regret weighs a ton. Okay? Discipline weighs an ounce. Regret weighs a ton. Now, why am I saying this? Because in order for us to maintain a relationship, we have to discipline ourselves. We can't be sloppy in a relationship with another person because then they won't want to be around us, right? You want to honor people. First, you have to honor yourself so that you can honor, right? So discipline weighs an ounce. Regret weighs a ton. When you discipline yourself to take care of what you have, those children, your spouse, your home, your community, when you discipline yourself to take care of what you have, you reduce the regret that you can experience. Wow. How many of you want to reduce possibilities of regret? I do. I don't want to live a life of regret. I want to live a life that was fulfilling. I did what the Most High made me to do, called me to do. I responded, even if I'm late, right? Jesus said of the two of them said they were going to do a task, and one of them didn't, but the other one who also did not repented, turned back and said, I'll go and do it, right? So we're creating this structure, okay, for the rhythm and flow. And our ancestors, this is what they did. They had rituals for everything, right? A ritual to resolve conflict, a ritual to transform conflict, a ritual for grieving, a ritual for when babies were born, a ritual for when babies died, a ritual for when elders, transition, all of these things, right? So we want to stay connected to that. Now, here's the thing. So that we can. Those are 4 powerful words. Those are 4 powerful words. And when you tell your child to do something, it's so that we can. That reminds the child that there's a purpose. You're not just telling them to do something because you feel like telling them to do something because I said so, right? No, it's so that we can. You're speaking purpose into what needs to be completed. So your child has a bigger picture when they're doing something, okay? And so in this, time of how do we create this structure? We create this structure so that we can connect more than we correct or redirect, right? And we want to build more than we break down. Some parents feel the need to break down their children because they feel like they're not adhering to a certain set of expectations. So we want to make sure that we are balancing out our interactions so that it's not so heartbreaking to be around, certain parents or certain children, certain family members, because our expectations break our heart, right? People can break our heart. People are the medium for heartbreak, but really it's what we expected that breaks our hearts. I'm going to pause there for a moment. Okay. So our expectations can either, break our hearts, unto sadness, or it could break it open unto something greater. And you get to choose what the breaking is for you. That is so exciting. You get to choose what the breaking is and what the breaking does for you. Okay, so there are a few questions I want to ask you, and I'm going to start sharing the structure with you and sharing these tools. Okay, now questions are great tools, and I'm a kids life coach. People are like, oh, there's so many coaches, la 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 la. But our ancestors were coaching one another. It just wasn't called life coaching because they didn't speak that language, right? But they were walking with one another, holding one another accountable. There's an accountability structure. How do you know you're being successful? That's what life coaching includes. That's what our ancestors did, for thousands of years before the making of this system, okay? So here's some questions that you can think about just to, connect you to the love within yourself, for your kids, for yourself, okay? So what do you love about your children? This is something you can write down in your journal. I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this, and just let it flow. I love these things because we're talking about the sufficiency of love. The sufficiency of love creates abundance and ease, but the lack of love creates disruptions and dis-ease. Okay? This is very important because in this month, we're celebrating the settlement of our people in Belize, Guatemala. Is wonderful. And then there are some other things happening, right? People feel unsettled within themselves. They're turning to different ways of being, right? Turning to different ways of being. And it's the lack of love that creates disruptions and dis-ease. Here in the United States, I live in California, in the Bay Area, there's so much homelessness. And every time I see people who are unhoused, living in tents, I'm reminded that the lack of love creates disruption and disease. How is this person loved across their lifespan? When we see people who are struggling with mental illnesses, when we see people who are struggling with addiction, when our young people here in the United States in particular are popping pills, but they get a bad pill and it's fentanyl, right? And now they have something even more dangerous than fentanyl. They have carfentanil. When this happens, it's the lack of love in an area of their lives that creates this disruption and dis-ease. But the sufficiency of love creates abundance and ease, even in adversity. Wow, that is so exciting. Okay, so listening, what do you love about your child? What do you love about your child? How often do you create an environment where they can simply rest in the love you have for them? This is very important. How often do you create an environment? Not do this, not I thought you were saying that, not blame, not shame, none of those things. But how often are you creating an environment where your child can just rest and know that I am loved, that I am enough, that there's nothing more I have to do to be accepted by my parents? Because this right here, this love between us, and we'll go back to this picture, this love between us, it is enough. It is enough. We see certain things in children from a young age and it scares us. But we have to ask ourselves, how do we feel about what we're looking at? I'm going to go into that tool in just a moment. Here's another question you can ask yourself. How would your life change if you created that environment? How would your life change if you created an environment where your child could simply rest in the love you have for them? I'm not saying overlook stuff and be a passive parent and never discipline. No, I believe in discipline. I am who I am today because I was disciplined, particularly by my dad, and my mom, but my dad didn't play. And she would say, do you want to talk to your dad? And I said, no. Okay, that was enough, right? So we have to, in balance and harmony, have these things, right? But how often are you creating that environment, And then ask yourself this: what type of success would you experience if you created that environment more often? What type of success would your child experience, right? More ease. And I'm not saying life is supposed to be easy. Life is hard. What I'm saying is you can excel with ease in difficulties. That's supernatural. See, everything is painful, adverse. That's part of life. But it's what you do with it that makes a difference. Adversity is inevitable. But peace is always available. So what you go through, think about that. How can I use this to inspire my progress? How can I use my pain to inspire my progress? Okay? So those are some questions, and those questions will help you think about how loving am I being as a parent. Sometimes as parents, we, speaking in the future tense, we can want to see our children do well so much that we're too hard on them. And I know how that is. Going back to my dad, very, very, loving, but sometimes it came off as too hard, right? But here's the thing, my dad's parents were hard on him. Right? So this is a generational hardness. We need to soften that just a little bit so that there's harmony, so that we're creating an environment where even when you're wrong, you're still loved. I want to be in an environment like that. How about you? Okay? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go into the tool that you can use, okay? Now let's see. This is so that we can have the relationships that we want to have with our kids, and so that our kids can look back on their lives and say, wow, I was really loved well. Wouldn't you want that to be your legacy? For your children to say, my parents loved me well. Wow. I want that to be said of me, right? Even without having kids, people will say, Ashley, when I'm around you, I feel this way. And I'm like, wow, well, I'm glad that I'm on track. This is my goal. I want to treat people well. Even if there was an error, God teaches me, instead of calling people out, call people in. Right? So there's another tool. How can I call my child in instead of calling my child out? Some of our teenagers, mouth, talk, phone, swipe. They think they're grown. You wouldn't call them out because you're tired of it, right? But as the parent, you have authority to call them in. And then you show them what love looks like. Okay? That's for everybody who's with me. You show them what love looks like. And some of you parents will say, well, I don't know what love looks like. Okay. But somebody loved you unto this point, right? You've been loved at different stages in your life. So when you look back at how loved you are, right? That's where your faith grows. See, fear develops in the sense of I lack, right? I don't know this. I didn't experience that. No one gave me this. Scarcity, right? Fear grows in scarcity mindset. But love, and love is the polar opposite of fear. Love grows in faith. And faith doesn't mean you know everything, right? But Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3 says, by faith we understand By faith, we understand that the world we see today was created by what is unseen. By faith, we understand that what is visible today was created by something that's unseen. So when you look at yourself, you are seen, right, as a human being, but as a spirit being that's unseen. There's an area of your spirit that cannot be given form. This body is not even sufficient to give your spirit form. That's so exciting. I'm preaching now. That is so exciting. So you want to, when you feel like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I haven't been shown what love is. I bet you have. If you're still here. And even if you spend a lot of time by yourself, it's just you and your kids. If somebody held a door open for you, if somebody bought groceries for you, if somebody let you stay at their house when you didn't have a place to stay, someone made a meal for you, that is an example of how loved you are. So you want to take that experience and apply that to your children. Why? Because the lack of love creates disruption and dis-ease, many disruptions. The lack of love will take a child off their divine path and put them onto another path, right? But the sufficiency of love will keep the child on the way that the Most High made them to take. And the way that the Most High makes them to take, we can't always see that. We want to control it. We think it's one way. It could be 5 other ways put in one, right? So you want to make sure that you are applying the love that you have received to your children. And again, this is going to help you to know what love is. Now, many times our faith can be a little distorted, right? I'm included. So I just have to check, what is my belief in, right? And if my faith causes me to distance myself, from someone, my child, I love them. Well, some things have to be, right? But your relationship with God is not just for you to benefit from. Okay, now I'm going to go back a little further, and then I'll come to the structure. Like, Ashley, could you give us a structure already? I'm getting to it. I'm going to go back even further than the Bible, right? Even further into the Kemetic scriptures. One of the laws, the law of Tehuti, Tehuti, it has different elements to it, but one element I want to share is that you look like God when what you want for yourself is what you want for others. And even better, when what you want for you is a benefit to others. When you want something for yourself and it's going to benefit people, that's wow, right? Some of us want things for ourselves and it doesn't benefit even us. Right? So it's not enough to say, well, I want this for you because I want this for me. Like you just want to be in the house, under the blankets all day. So everybody don't want to be in the house under the blankets all day. That's good for you. But when you think about what benefits other people, maybe it's okay, I'll do this for 15 more minutes and then together we can, right? So why do I say all that? I say that to say that the sufficiency of love creates abundance and ease, even in the face of adversity. But the lack of love creates many disruptions and dis-ease. And we want to create a structure that will allow for the rhythm and flow of relational trust, wisdom, purpose, love, right? Creativity, stability, peace, innovation. What's the structure? Okay, I'm going to get to it. In Genesis chapter 1, the word says, let there be light. Let there be a firmament to separate the waters from above, separate the waters above from the waters beneath. Let there be creatures in the water, right? Let there be land. Let there be 2 lights, one to govern the day and a lesser one to govern the night. This is what Genesis chapter 1 says. Now, God said, let there be. So I said, well, okay. God spoke it. Simple and yet complex. So God spoke it, but then God did something else. He performed an act, or she performed an act that would sustain and develop the word. That's so exciting. Okay, so what's an example of this? Well, let's get my notes. An example of this is where? Hold on 1 second. Okay, so let there be light. Let there be light. And then what was done was God divided the light from the darkness. Okay, and that's really profound. Yes. So that division is like that crisp cut distinction between what is seen and what is not seen. So God created that, right? So created that distinction for our eyes to see. And then what happens? He said, it is good. Okay? Let there be a firmament. Okay? And the firmament divided the upper water from the lower water. The firmament, the heavens are created and the earth, right? And what happened? It was good. So you read Genesis chapter 1. You say, Ashley, what are you talking about? I'm going to show you. Okay? And share my screen really quickly. So, let's see. God spoke. God did something. So there was speaking. And then there was an act of some sort, a doing. And then it is good. And if you read Genesis chapter 1, you'll see this pattern. So saw and said. So God spoke, God did something to sustain it, and God saw that it was good. Okay? So let there be. And I'm going to create this so that it will be. And then it is good. Okay? So how does this apply to you? As a parent, we talk about creating a structure that will create a rhythm and flow, sustain the rhythm and flow for purpose, trust, creativity, stability, peace, right? Wisdom. So that as you give to your child is giving to you. There's that reciprocity, that mutuality. This is the structure. You want to speak what you see. Now, here's the thing. We're talking about the sufficiency of love, right? When there's enough love, you speak what you see. If you speak what you see in the highest sense, you are going to bring out the best in your child. How do you bring out the best in your child? First, you speak what you see in the highest sense of the child, of the word. Wow, you are so, I love the word dazzling. You are just so dazzling. You are so powerful. You are so responsible, right? That's important. Being responsible is important. Wow, you are so respectful. You are so kind. You are so generous. You are in the highest sense. Now, I'm not saying your child doesn't make errors. You want to call your child in on when they make mistakes. When your child knows that they're loved, even when they're wrong, and that's been my experience, especially in my 20s, that's when I realized, I grew up in a household where I felt like I needed to do everything perfectly in order to maintain some type of peace, right? That's another topic for another time. Development of codependency issues because of the emotional distress in the adults, my parents, right? So that was a survival thing. Let me try to do everything right so that nobody gets in trouble. And I thought it was, best for me to do everything right so that no one ever say I did something wrong. And then what happened was I could not make myself available to be given feedback because I was afraid to be wrong. That's another topic, right? So when you speak what you see in your child, the highest self, and even like, you know what, just to call them in, wow. If your child gets a little defensive, if your child gets a little worried, if your child gets scared, if your child's a perfectionist, there's a way to speak what you see in the highest sense. I see that you are scared. I see that you are, upset. I see that you are disappointed. I see that you are frustrated. And that's just, that's part of their emotional experience. But you speak the highest. Talking about structure here, going back to Genesis, when this is the Genesis structure, the beginning structure for you to improve your interactions with yourself and your child. And then you want to act. So if you say what you see in the highest sense, there's something that you want to do to affirm what you have spoken. Now, to affirm, firm, make it strong, right? If I speak what I see, I want to do something that's going to sustain what I've spoken. Can I get an amen from somebody? I want to do something to sustain what I have spoken. So if I say my child is responsible, don't just give them candy, or don't just give them, some milk. Show them the power of them being responsible. Maybe it's like taking a trip somewhere, or it doesn't have to be a big trip. It could just be like, we're going to spend more time together. I love spending time with you, right? I really enjoy you. You're so much fun to be around, and then, creating that environment with our words, and checking ourselves on what we think. Okay. And then see it as good. See it as good, right? So you speak what you see in the highest sense. You do something, you create a structure to sustain it. And then you see that it's good. And then you look like God when you do these things. Wow, wow, wow. So you may be wondering, like, Ashley, well, how would I do this? If this is something that is interesting to you, because I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg, I'm a life coach. So I help families do this all the time. I help service providers do this, creating the structures so that they can create success for themselves. And so if you are interested, I don't know where you would leave a comment, but, you can email me. And I'm at Ashley at risewhereyouare.com. We'll put that link up there, Ashley at risewhereyouare.com, if you're interested in, getting some support around this. Okay. So then you have this structure and you're able to give to your child and receive from, because if you're always giving, if you're always giving, but you're not receiving, you will be resentful. Okay. Now, here's the other side of this. Speak what you see. If you're always telling your child that, you don't do this, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, you don't appreciate what I do, you're not grateful, you're lazy, you're always on your phone. Now, what's going to immediately follow that is you're going to do something that sustains that word. You're going to do something that's going to sustain that word. And what is it? You may just be silent. You may just look at him. And the way you look at your child, what you speak in silence could disrupt them for many years, right? Because here's the thing, family. When we are looking at something, what we interpret about what we're looking at determines our experience. What we interpret about what we are looking at determines our experience. So it's kind of saying that a lot of things are neutral. It's what you do with it, right? Like, let's take a gun, for example. Are guns bad? Some may say not at all, right? So let's go with the not at all. No, it's not guns that kill people. It's people that kill people. If the gun is on the table, it's not just going to go off unless somebody holds it a certain way. Okay? So it's how you see what you're looking at. And let's take this back to your child. How you look at your child determines the problem. right? Your child could have any type of behavior, but how you approach your child, how you look at them, how you speak to them determines your experience with your child. Okay? Oh, that's a lie. That's a lie. So we want to make sure that we are staying in that place of love. Okay? And I know this is not easy. It's not easy. You know, some people may be like, oh, well, so much for her. I don't want to reach out to her. That's okay. But regardless of who you reach out to for support, I want you to experience love in such a way that you are able to apply it to your relationship with your child. Because child mental health, teen mental health is tied to their parents, you know. So your children are not here to lift you up or bring you down. Some people have babies, you know, because they're lonely. They want to start a family, right? We are made to exist in family structure. But if you have a child and you think that they're supposed to make you happy all the time, or they make you sad all the time, I want you to pause and consider this. What you do to lift yourself up determines what you give to your child. What you do to bring yourself down determines what you give to your child, right? So how you interact with yourself really determines how your child experiences you, okay? So again, this is not, you know, I feel like my jaws are getting a little like, ooh, yikes. So what do we do? How do we tap in? We want to go back to a place where we feel closer, we feel at home within ourselves. To be at home within our hearts is to be with God, right? That is, the kingdom of God is within you, right? Jesus said that the kingdom is within you. And for those who don't ascribe to that set of beliefs, then you are cosmic, right? The universe. And not to say that one is bigger or better than the other, but it's all the same, it's just language, right? The cosmic energy within you is within you, right? So we want to take the time every day to tap into that, because you know, God is in our DNA. Our ancestors are in our DNA, you know. So we want to tap into that and create that space so that we can have something not only to give to ourselves, but to give to others. Okay? Present. Yes. Being present. Give thanks. Thank you, Joan, for talking back to me. I appreciate that. So being present connects us to the world that is unseen, right? And then what we see is temporary, but what we don't see is eternal. So you want to be able to look at your child in a way that you can see eternity in your child. Look at the adversities as temporary, right? The light affliction. It's a momentary affliction, right? But, oh, my. How you see can be a long-term affliction. I'm going to pause there. How you see can be a long-term affliction. Do you want your vision to hurt you, or do you want it to help you? Right? So again, it's what we interpret from life that determines what we experience, and how we engage with ourselves determines our experience, the experience our children have of us, right? So we tap in with breathing, with prayer, with meditation, with movement. We started with some stretching, right? So we want to be able to tap into the present moment, because our body, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, is the subconscious mind. The body is a subconscious mind. So we want to wake up that body, wake it up, even just jogging in place. Master Tatiana, some of you know who Master Tatiana is. You know, she's one of my teachers. And just jogging in place, right? So being able to get present helps us to tap into the love that is within us. Okay? Waking ourselves up, meditating on the laws of God. And here's the thing, to another reframe the 10 commandments. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Okay, we need the don'ts, but then you got to look at what can you do. And I was reading, I have a book on the Comedic Scriptures, and the author, Dr. Ra Nefer Amen, says, you look like God when, right? So if I don't do this, then I can do this, and I look like God when I do this. That's what I want for all of us. That's what I want. Why? So our kids can know what love is. And they don't have to search high and low in the earth for love, right? Because you created that environment. You showed them what love looks like. You showed them what love doesn't look like, right? So they don't have to. Some people look for years for what they did not have in the home. Now, my time is coming to an end, but I want you to think about that for a moment. And some people search for years what they don't have in the home. So what can you give to your child that will hold them for a lifetime? Okay? What can you give to your child that will hold them for a lifetime? And we go back to that Genesis structure. We said, speak what you see in the highest sense. In the highest sense, speak what you see. Do something that sustains that word, right? Do something, give them a hug, listening to them, right? Not assuming, but asking questions. Those are acts that you can do that will sustain with the goodness that you see in your child, not making them your emotional caretaker, right? Forgiving yourself and giving the same grace that you give yourself, give your kids, okay? Teach them what to expect, right? You want to be teaching to certain behaviors, not just saying stop, don't, not, that, okay? And then love the child, address the behavior. Those are all things, those are all acts that you can do to sustain what you see in the highest sense. And then you just rest and see that it is good. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. And I am just so grateful that I was able to have this time with you today. For those of you who are tuning in on our live, for those of you who will watch this, a little later, maybe in a week, or, if it lives somewhere and you can access it whenever you find it. I hope that there was something that was said today that can help you to create the environment that shows your child what love is, that reminds you what love is. And then, as we said in the beginning, going back to creating a structure for the rhythm and flow of relationship, trust, wisdom, peace, creativity, stability, purpose, and innovation. Relationships are resources, and we need discipline to maintain them. When we see what we have, we don't have to live a life of regret, right? Discipline weighs an ounce, regret weighs a ton. And when you are able to cultivate and take care of what you've been given, you can look back on your life and say, wow, I had a good life. I was loved well, and I loved others well. I'm so, so grateful. I wish that you were here with me in person so we could have more of a conversation. But again, we're going to just give thanks for the information that was shared today. And let's do just a nice stretch. Oh, so grateful. So grateful. Side to side reaching. Oh, I need to just move my shoulders like this. Right? And then let's just, get those jaws, because Ashley said some stuff today that was kind of like, ooh, I don't know, she may have been talking about me. All in love, right? So we want to massage the jaw, how sacred you are, massaging the temples, massaging around your forehead, remembering that you are wonderfully made, fearfully and wonderfully made. And when Psalm 139 says fearfully made with reverence, you are made to revere the Most High, to radiate the image of God in the earth, right? And that's the example Jesus gives us, right? So we want to be able to Tap in and remember, it doesn't matter how close you are to the rituals and the recipes of Afro-Indigenous culture, Garifuna culture. You are as close to your ancestors as the curve in your DNA. They love us. They want us to be well. And there are things that were in them that could not be fulfilled in the time. So it's supposed to come through us. I bless you. I thank you for joining me. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day and enjoy the festival. I know that I will. Thank you. Thank you.